So today we're having the kickoff, and right after this kickoff, you'll gain access to the course. So you'll have 1 week to complete the hands-on lab. We'll be wrapping up the event next week, Wednesday, and we'll have a wrap-up meeting at 4 o'clock Central European time next week, Wednesday. So please do join, because we're always very happy to get your feedback, so that we can improve the course content and also maybe improve the platform itself. And for those who are joining, we're going to offer 30% discount on any course on the platform. So please do join, and then maybe you'll get started soon on another course after. And of course, if you finish the hands-on lab, you'll be getting a certificate. And we really want all of you who have started the course to get a certificate. So we're going to be offering support as usual. So if you need any extra time, we are a bit more relaxed during the course event. So we can give you more time, or if perhaps you need to have another go, then don't feel free to reach out to us via the live support. So it's available from 9 to 5 on Central European time on weekdays. So that's from Monday to Friday. And you'll see that you can access it via this chat with us box. It's always on the right-hand side. And if you click on it, you'll be redirected to our bot. There are some frequently asked questions that might help you out. For example, perhaps you have problem with creating the lab, but if you have a unique case, then the bot will automatically redirect you to our live support team. So just try to contact us through there. And then of course, in the hands-on lab, we do have the page with a survey. Please do fill it in. As I said, we really want to hear your feedback. So here at the DevSecOps Academy, there are a number of DevSecOps categories that we do focus on, and that we structure our learning paths around. So here you can see these security categories for on and around the DevOps lifecycle. So compliance as code, which is the learning path we're focusing on today, is in our cloud security category. But I think before we get into compliance as code, we need to talk about infrastructure as code. So Vidya, how would you describe infrastructure as code?
Well, I will describe infrastructure as code as an IT practice that enables the team to code and manage the underlying IT infrastructure as software. So this enables the DevOps teams to automatically provision their resources regardless of manually configuring any hardware devices and or operating systems. Also, with idempotency is the principle of infrastructure as code. It will be easy for the teams to deliver stable environments rapidly and at scale.
So you just mentioned idempotency, Vidya. Yeah. I'm afraid I'm not familiar with the principle, and maybe there are some other people that are not familiar with it. Could you just really briefly explain it to us?
Yeah, sure, Inge. So idempotency is the property of certain operations that can be applied multiple times, but the results won't change. For example, like the principle of same source code generates the same binary, idempotency also creates or generates the same environment every time it is applied. So you get a consistent environment across the teams.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that does clarify it a bit. Thank you. So does Azure have its own infrastructure as code technology?
Yes, Azure do provide native support for infrastructure as code, as we see on the slide, via Microsoft Azure Resource Manager templates. These are templates that are in the form of JSON files that help us to define the infrastructure and configuration for your project.
Mhm. So will we be working with Azure Resource Manager in the course then?
Maybe we can create another course around it. For this course, we are using Terraform infrastructure as code tool for developing the Azure infrastructure. So as we all know, Terraform as a powerful tool that uses the HashiCorp configuration language. So you can learn one language and it will be easy to develop multiple prominent cloud platforms. So using Terraform, you can configure your cloud and elements, and also you can have a preview of the changes it is going to make before we actually deploy them to the cloud environment. Also here, for our course, we are using Azure DevOps, where we store these configuration files in the Azure repository for implementing the continuous integration and continuous deployment. Also, we wanted to ensure compliance in the infrastructure that we create using compliance code that is also incorporated in our pipelines.
So for those who may have joined our earlier events, we have previously discussed compliance as code in relation to our courses using Terraform and OPA, and compliance as code for AWS using Chekhov. But just as a refresher, Vidya, what is compliance as code?
Yeah, compliance as code can be defined as the codification of compliance controls, which enables for the automation of compliances. So when we talk about compliance, we cannot miss the regulatory compliances. Like the GDPR or HIPAA and PCI DSS standards. So those are regulatory standards that are established by government authorities or industry groups. And there is also the internal compliance, which are established for the internal IT organization for their security improvement. So compliance as code can be used for both regulatory and internal compliance definitions.
So are there any other major benefits to being compliant besides perhaps escaping potential prosecution and these really horrible large fines we read about in the news?
Yes, Inge, you have to remember an key important point here is that compliance as code does not mainly focus on regulatory compliance. It has far more potential outcomes. Like we discussed earlier, infrastructure as code makes the infra standardized. Next, it makes it replicable and is also helps to reproduce or reuse the code. Compliance as code also brings in these three core benefits into picture. While we talk about compliance as code, we can have a quick look at the tools that are available for this. Like Azure also provides a tool, Azure Policy. So it is a powerful tool to drive an organization's compliance as code. So it provides around 400 built-in policies that can be assigned to your Azure resources. But however, we are going to use Open Policy Agent in our course for enforcing policies. So OPA, that is Open Policy Agent, allows organizations to deploy a single tool for policy enforcement across a cloud native stack.
So if Azure Policy is such a good tool, why is OPA being used in the course?
That is a good question, Inge. So we want to be able to use the OPA policies across different cloud platforms. So when we use OPA policies in Azure, we make sure that we are not every time reliant on Azure. Also, we can use these policies for our other softwares that are stored in other cloud platforms like AWS or GCP.
Well, that sounds like a very good reason to use OPA. Yes. So it sounds like it's about time you tell us a bit more about OPA.
Yes, as we discussed already, OPA is an open source tool, open source general purpose policy engine that unifies the policy enforcement across the stack. Also, OPA uses its own policy language called RECO that accepts JSON files as input. Also, when we are developing an infrastructure using Terraform, it will be difficult to validate the changes against the real environment. Every time we cannot go and apply the changes against the real environment. So that is where OPA is used. So we can actually write policies on the changes that Terraform is going to make before it makes them. This OPA shortens the feedback loop.
So are there any big or well-known companies that have already integrated OPA into their own work processes?
There are organizations, they are using OPA in their for their controlling their policies or accesses. There is Netflix that uses OPA to control access to its internal API resources. There's the Chef, they uses it to provide IAM capabilities in their end user products. And if I am not wrong, there is Cloudflare or Pinterest and others use OPA to enforce policies on their platform.
Okay. So sounds like it's worth using or giving it a go anyway. So what kind of OPA policies will we be applying in the course? And will we actually get an opportunity to write them ourselves?
Yes, we have exercises in our lab where the participants get hands-on on writing these policies. And also we have few examples stated in the lab so that they'll get used to the OPA policy language. We are going to write OPA policies that are based on the CIS benchmarks. CIS is a Center for Internet Security. So it is an non-profit entity that wants to make the connected world a safer place. So their mission is to develop and sustain best practice solutions for cyber defense.
So you mentioned that the policies are based on the CIS's benchmarks. Can you tell us more about their standards and what they are meant to be applied to?
Sure. So as we discussed just before, CIS benchmarks are like baselines or best practices which help us to configure secure system. So CIS controls maps to the standard established standards and regulatory frameworks like PCI DSS, HIPAA, or GDPR, and the ISO 27000 series of standards. So any industry that is governed by these regulations can make a significant progress towards being compliant if they adhere to the CIS benchmark. So having said that, Microsoft also teamed up with CIS to create the CIS Microsoft Azure Foundations benchmark. You can find an example on the slide. So where they are talking about the Azure accounts, how we can create securely the Azure accounts. So they state that we should ensure that secure transfer required to is set to enabled. That is, they want to enable data encryption and transit. That is, when we are accessing storage accounts via any REST APIs, we want that connection to be secure. So everyone wants secure connection. We don't want our data to be taken away. So we wanted to use HTTPS connection is a best practice that is listed here. So we will be writing OPA policies based on some of the benchmarks, some of the CIS benchmarks in our course labs.
Okay, that's good. Can't wait to get started.
Yeah.
So up until this point, we have discussed infrastructure as code, compliance as code, and OPA. So how do these concepts come together in the hands-on lab?
So still you are with me, Inge. That's great. So here on the slide, we can find an overview of the course workflow. So as we discussed earlier that we are using Azure DevOps in our course. So we have a repository where we store our Terraform files to create the resources. Also the policies that we have written using the OPA tool. So, and we build the pipeline which integrates these two, the Terraform and the OPA. So we will run the checks against these resources. And if we are sure that it doesn't violate the policy, we'll deploy them to the Azure infrastructure, Azure cloud platform. And we even learn to deploy a basic web application to our Azure account in the course labs.
Great. Thanks a lot, Vidya.
Yeah, thank you.
So now we're going to take a moment to look if anyone has any questions. You can add them in the chat. Okay. So we see there are not any questions so far, but we will have another opportunity to ask questions at the end. So if any popped up in your mind, just do. So we do have a question that's asking how to go ahead with the course. You don't have access to the course yet, so I will be walking through how to access the course right now. So hopefully your question will be answered then, but you'll only get access to the course once this meeting is done. But I will show you now how to navigate the platform. All right. But just before we show you how to navigate the platform, Vidya, could you just tell us a little bit more about what assignments are going to be in the course?
Yes, we discussed how the course workflow works. So from there, we will learn how to build the pipeline, how to integrate Terraform and OPA into your Azure pipeline. So we discussed we'll be using Azure DevOps. So we'll get a workaround on how to use Azure DevOps. So other exercises are based on the resources we wanted to create in your Azure account. Like first we have the Azure storage account creation and storage container. We'll validate them against the OPA policies. Next, we will validate and create a SQL server and firewall rule. And third, or finally, we'll validate and create an Azure app service using Terraform that we will validate it against the OPA policy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's quite a bit to do.
Yeah. Let's see.
All right. So hopefully most of you recognize this screen. So that's where you registered for the event. But now we're just going to be changing to the platform itself. So here you should be able to see the courses page. So if you go to the courses page and you search for Azure, because this is our first Azure course on the platform. So we also do want your feedback to see what your experience is in doing it. So if you here you can see it's the first option that pops up. So called Azure Infrastructure Policy Check using OPA. So if you select it, you will see that you have a preparation and a hands-on lab. So you have to complete the preparation lab before you go to the hands-on lab, because there are a number of really important concepts and the platform are explained in order to give you some kind of foundational knowledge before you go to the hands-on lab. So if there are concepts that you already know, just skim through the page and carry on to the next. So here you can also see that we do tell you a little bit more what's in the hands-on lab, what you can expect before you actually create the lab itself. And we also give you some indication of how you can set it up on your own local machine. So at the end of the preparation lab, you'll have the option to take the quiz or do the hands-on lab. So if you select take the quiz, please do try to complete it properly in the first round, because we cannot reset the quiz because you get 4 attempts. So you should be able to finish it in those 4 attempts. And then after the quiz, you can carry on to the hands-on lab. You will have an opportunity to choose your level between advanced and meteor, but they're exactly the same. So I would suggest start on advanced. The only difference is that when after you've used 2 hints, you'll automatically drop down to a meteor level. So when you select to start the hands-on lab, we've already created it, but normally there will be a pop-up box that does ask you, are you sure do you want to create it? And please do have those 3 hours free so that you can sit down and do the lab in one go, because that's what is required. So don't go mountain climbing or shopping or swimming, unless you're very good at multitasking and have a good mobile connection. So we're going to start the lab. And as you can see, you have your resources that have been created for you at the top. So you'll have a Azure DevOps platform, Azure portal, and also your own resource group. And please do use your credentials to log into those accounts, because you'll need to use a specific accounts for all the assignments. So also in the top right-hand corner, you'll have your level, how many hints are remaining, and also how much time you do have remaining. So keep an eye on that. And if you see your time is running out and you really want more time because you just have like 1 or 2 steps to finish, you can always select the chat with us box. And this is where you can contact the support team and ask for 1 or 2 hours extra just to extend your lab. But also, as we said before, if you have any other technical issues, you can also chat with our support team there and ask them for help. So on the left-hand side, you can see that we have some check marks already marked. So this is our automated checker, but the checker is more of a guideline. So usually it works quite well. If you have an assignment that you need to do, it does check for whether you have completed the steps, but we are constantly improving our checker. So it doesn't always pick up on all the alternative ways to finish the steps. So you might do it in an unusual way, but you still have the same results. So in that case, don't worry if you get this little pop-up button that says check again, that the automated checking detects that you have not completed the step correctly. You can just carry on. If you're 100% sure that you got the right results and it resembles what is in the step itself, then you can just, at the end of the course, just select check results. And then it will be, your lab will be submitted for manual checking. And the same is if you maybe are not sure how to complete it, or you're sure that you're not 100% sure, you can still submit the lab, because then it saves the lab and we are able to take a look at it and maybe give you some advice on the lab and then extend your time. Because if you don't submit the lab at all, it will be destroyed, and the work that you put in will also be destroyed, unfortunately. So do submit it. And if you've gotten all the check marks and you say check results, then you'll automatically get the certification and pass the lab. And also one thing in relation to the checker, if you are stuck and you see that you're not passing the step, you can also use our hints. So in most of the steps where we have assignments, we also do have solutions and hints. So you'll find them in little boxes like this, like, do you need a hint? And we can select it and we say show hint text. But this will take from your hints that are available there. So these should be sufficient to help you to carry on to the next step. And then as we said before, we do have the survey in the lab. So if you select the link, you'll open it up onto the survey. Please do fill it out. Even if you don't fill out all the questions, just tell us what was your favorite part and what was the part that you didn't like and what you really think needs a bit more work, or what you would suggest to make it more engaging and give you a better learning experience. And And then of course, do say check results before your time runs out, just so that we can check your lab, and also, or the automated checker checks it. Right, so that's all from us until next week. So we do have the wrap-up session next week, Wednesday. And if you do attend, we'll be giving you 30% discount. But we will also look at the questions now in the chat box. Let's see. Oh, we got a comment called, there's a button called Destroy Lab. There is a button called Destroy Lab, and it's red button. And we all want to press the red button, but don't do it because it will destroy your lab. Unless you are a bit nihilistic and you feel like, you know, you don't want to submit your lab.
Some of us may not know
sometimes it does happen that you have a problem with spinning up the lab, and then you do need to be able to destroy the lab and create it again. So these are usually the only cases where you would choose destroy lab. And then we have another question. If you are not familiar with Terraform, we do link to a lot of resources that like Terraform documentation that should help you to get started. But also, as Dominique said, there are also hints and solutions in the lab that will help you to continue. It is, of course, better if you do know Terraform and you have some kind of foundational knowledge, but you could also just follow a Terraform beginner's tutorial just to get familiar with Terraform and then do the course afterwards. But like Dominique said, there are hints. And the video recording, so we usually do put the video recording up on YouTube, and maybe it'll probably latest be available in the next day. And we were asked, so for the preparation lab, that the time window that you have is unlimited, so you can spend as much time as you want on the preparation lab, and that's also why we do give you information on the hands-on lab so you feel a bit prepared. But for the actual hands-on lab, it's only 3 hours. So usually this is enough time to finish it, but you do need to sit down for those 3 hours. But as I said before, we want to help you finish. So you can always contact our support team if you see that you're running out of time to give you more time. But do tell us before the time so we have enough time to see your message, maybe 1 or 2 hours before. Are there any more questions? All right, so if there are no more questions, we hope to see you next Wednesday. Otherwise, we'll be in contact with you in this week. Good luck with your course. We'll be giving you access in the next 10 minutes to your course. Then you can get started. All right, thanks guys, thanks for joining. It's nice seeing you all.